Welcome back to the Half Mile Podcast by Mercedes-Benz Downtown Calgary. Today we are discussing AMG and in particular e-performance, the return of the V8, death of the M139, and the rise of the M256. I'm Mazen Aboulhosn, joined by co-GM Justin Edgar and fixed operations manager Chris Mrnik. Guys, we got to talk about AMG. Are they getting back their mojo right now?
Well, you talk like they lost it. I don't think AMG ever lost their mojo. Maybe the direction for a brief bit, Chris, but I mean, to me, AMG is still AMG.
No, they lost their mojo for a little bit. They're coming back, but I think it's all because they went too EV.
Yeah, I think EV derailed a lot of brands. Porsche right now is struggling with that seriously. But I think at the same time, it was something that did create a bit of a misdirection. I don't think they necessarily lost their mojo because their cars were still fairly emotional. But I feel like they made some marketing missteps. C63 was a good example of that. We talked about that when we actually did the generational video. And I think that they shouldn't have called that car a C63. I think it was an engineering marvel. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. I love the M139. I love that e-performance technology. What they pulled off with that car was incredible, but it wasn't a C63.
It's not a 63. No, it's an amazing car. We've all driven it. It's phenomenal for a four-cylinder, that hybrid in it. E-performance in general is amazing.
Well, you and I debated it. I mean, internally, we talked it should have been a C55. I mean, there's so many years you had back then C32, C36, C43, C55, C53, potentially. That could have been the opportunity for it. And then C63, but the 63 nomenclature has never really explored that electrified four-cylinder.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's why even in other markets, when they did the EQE and the EQS AMG, they called them the 53. They never called them the 63 because they knew that they would be stepping into some hot water there. But the opportunity that was missed in the C63 was that they could have branded this as a new car. They were talking about concepts and they had renders of a baby CLS that they were calling the CLC. I think that car would have been brilliant if it was the CLC, 53 e-performance or 55, like you said. It could have just lit the world on fire because the price point was fantastic. The performance was fantastic. The fuel economy was fantastic. It just wasn't a C63. So, I mean, it was in a different, if it had been in a different body overall, because it probably would have done a lot better because it's a very attractive car. Like the C63 is a great looking car, the new e-performance, right?
Well, I think also what made the C63 unique is that we saw the price point of the C43 come out. It was more potentially than the market expected, more than we expected when it first got launched. The dealers really pushed back at the idea of bringing a C63 in because luxury tax here in the Canadian market, all of a sudden a C63 north of $150,000 is sale-proof, even though now it's all-wheel drive. But Mercedes-Benz Canada did a great job. They pushed back. A lot less of them showed up in our marketplace, and they sold really well. They sold quick. And you and I debated it a lot, whether it would have any success. You thought we'd have it sitting in our showroom and rotting, but I mean, they sold. And they're a lot of fun, and you had them out on the runway, and they're incredible vehicles. But the true tale would have been what happened had they mass-produced it, or at least brought it to the market like they did the C43 and every other AMG that's available. It probably would have struggled, especially.
How many of those came to Canada?
72. 72 came to Canada. But to Justin's point, what they did right with the C63 when it came to Canada is, yes, they limited it to the 72 because by the time they just made the decision to kill the car, they'd already produced those 72. And they were almost somewhat panic-stricken and they priced the car almost too low. So the MSRP at 105 was within less than 30 grand of an MSRP of a C43.
Well, yeah, apples to apples. I mean, you were $15,000 walk.
Yeah, by the time you equip them the same way with what the C63 came standard with, yeah, you were like 15, under 20 grand was the walk between the two, which is unheard of to go from a 43 to a 63 to have that short of a gap. That's like half the gap that it normally is. So what they also did in those inadvertently is they made the C43 appear to be somewhat overpriced as a result, which is why it was incentivized later on with additional rebates and lower interest rates overall. And it did eventually become a much better deal. I think the C43 would have been easier for the market to accept had they put a V8 or kept a V8 in the C63. I think the C43 would have been more successful. And it took a while for the C43 to come back around, and they had some issues with software with them in the beginning. They had to do those flushes that they had to do with the oil, and then eventually, once they got past that part on the C43, it actually, if you drive later ones, they're actually much quicker than the early ones.
Yeah, the early ones had sand left over in the block from when they were casted. So it's clogging up the thermostats. Big issue. We were doing tons of flushes on those, get them cleared out. But I think that C63 is going to be a collector's car one day.
It'll be like an R63.
Yeah.
I mean, Mazen would kill someone to have an R63.
Yeah. And R63 was an epic failure when it came out.
Yeah.
Like they couldn't move those things for the life of them. Today they keep going up in value because it's the coolest minivan you can
We
ever
still have
have
one that comes through service.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, there's pros and cons. What I think about, when I think about AMG in general and what attracts me so much to the brand is they constantly push the envelope. They do things that other guys don't do, and they are trendsetters in a lot of ways. So, my favorite AMG since day one to this day will always be an E63 wagon. I think it's the wildest vehicle that's out there, that it's a supercar killer, that is a station wagon and a very functional station wagon. It's not like an RS6 that has a very raked back end. It does give up some, form for function versus the RS6 does it the other way. And I love fast wagons, and that's what I loved about the AMG E63. I think the G63 was also a crazy oxymoron that they produced, right? Because who's going to make this box that's going to be this crazy fast box that is going to chase down sports cars all day long? It shouldn't be that way. And they've done things like 4x4 squares and things like that. They really pushed the envelope. And I feel like when they were tasked with producing these, high performance AMGs, where they were restricted by the size of the motor that they were going to put in there and fuel emissions and whatnot, I think they pulled it off with a fantastic job. I think what they did with what they were given for the C63 and particularly the GLC 63, which I think is a better application of that drivetrain.
100%.
I think they did a fantastic job, right? Because in the GLC 63, it made a lot more sense because you were offsetting poor fuel economy of an SUV, performance SUV, by giving it this powertrain. And inadvertently, what I don't think they realized, it ended up being one of the fastest SUVs in the world as a result. And it's really good on fuel for an SUV.
I just wish it had a bigger fuel tank. I mean, that's the only complaint I had driving the C43 is that it's still a small fuel tank. Now, don't get me wrong, that inline 4 is incredible on a fuel economy. But when you start getting into the 63s, the tank, I mean, it's a small vehicle, whether it be the GLC or the C-Class. It's not big enough for a bigger tank.
But, I'm going to argue that point with you. And, Chris and I have always appreciated that about the 63E performances with the 4-cylinder. We'll leave the dealership with a full tank of fuel, drive to the runway, which is 85 kilometers to the runway one way, run the hell out of them on these, half-mile drag races all day long, drive back, and it's still got a third of a tank of fuel. So, you're not driving it that way to and from the runway, but I mean, it's pretty impressive for what it's actually delivering, right? But the 256, the M256, the 53 motor, I think is the real secret gem right now that's happening within AMG.
Big time.
Yeah.
If there's one car, I mean, I've told you this. I know we joke that my next car will be a CLA electric, but the truth be, if I was to buy one last car with Mercedes-Benz outside of being my Halo SL, my everyday car would be the E53 E-Performance sedan. I know you're the wagon guy, I'm the sedan guy, but that would be my car. The fact that you could drive 70, 78 kilometers of pure electric driving, full well knowing that the performance is there, and if you just said, what the hell with it, let's go in full ICE mode. I mean, it's the best of both worlds. And I know I always push that hybrid technology, but in the E53 sedan, it blows my mind every time I get into it.
The motor itself is pretty phenomenal. How it has turbo, has a little electric supercharger on it, right? No belts. It's all 48 volt. Like when you break down that motor and see all the different things in it, it's amazing. And it's so smooth.
And it's reliable.
Very reliable. We've had no issues with that motor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's delivering V8 performance. It's incredible fuel economy. Like when we saw that in the G550, that blew me away.
Yeah.
750 kilometers of range in the G550 with that 6, and it blew the doors off the 8 that it replaced.
Yep. And can keep up with the AMG V8 from the past.
Yeah, the last generation.
G63.
Yeah, that's something that's
wild.
Amazing that they've been able to pull that off. So the 256, I think, is going to carry AMG quite a bit, going forward in terms of having that whole setup and the electric supercharger and the hybrid assisted turbocharger. It's a brilliant setup. It's an inline 6, which I think, a lot of people don't realize this, but that's really where AMG's roots were in inline 6. The C36 was the first AMG, and that was an inline 6, right?
Imagine that in the C63. Not as a 63, but
that's where it's the 53.
53.
Or the 55 if they wanted to go
what
that
a
direction.
motor.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I think if you took the e-Performance drivetrain, not from the E53, but from the C63 SE Performance, and you mated it to that M256,
yeah,
it'd be pretty awesome. Because what I think a lot of people don't realize is that the E53's setup is not the same as a C63 or an S63 or a GT63 SE. It does not have those 45-degree, cells that they have in the battery that are always constantly maintained, like the F1 technology. It's more similar to a hybrid setup in something, say, like in a G90 M5, where it's a much larger battery. It's made to be driven on longer distances in EV mode. So it's not something that's set up to be like the full-out 63 e-Performance.
Yeah, some things we've noticed on the track is like when they always say this e-Performance is hybrid. It's not really hybrid, right? It's more like F1 technology, right? Where you can discharge that battery really fast and then it recharges like within a few kilometers. It'll be 100% again, right? As long as you're in race mode. It's not a hybrid car. You're not buying one of these for hybrid. You're buying it so you can discharge the battery, have fun while driving, and then recharge it again.
I'm driving it for electric.
But you know what, though? The E53, what a lot of people don't realize is they look at it as an e-Performance, but it's not that way. And we learned that really quickly that, when we ran it and we did that generational video, the three of us, the E53 kept getting slower with every run, right? That peak 604 horsepower happened on run 1. And you saw it with the way it delivered that power and put it down.
I thought Chris and I just beat you. I didn't think you always go back to when you lose, it's the car. When you win, it's the driver. Well,
no, it kept falling behind. We should talk about that video though. There's a lot of people that were upset about that 212 E63 that you were driving. I don't think people realize how critical of a component the transmission is. Because that's really what held that vehicle back. Secondly was the laggy turbos.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a little long in the tooth, that car. It was, there you can see me falling behind. It was bad. I just wouldn't keep up. It felt like it didn't have enough high end. You can just see me falling back. Oh, man, I'm just getting clobbered.
Yeah. But you take that with the non-G-tronic that's in the, the E63 that Justin was driving, right? It's a total game changer.
It is.
Right? And you've also got that hot V, you got shorter rams. It's a much superior engine. And that's something that really is underappreciated with AMG. Because if you look at those cars, the one you were driving was a 5.5. It's a big motor, right? And not as big as a 6.2, which is the naturally aspirated one. And then the one that really was taking the cake all day was Justin's 4-liter in the V8, which was pretty amazing. But you got to really respect that E53 from a 3-liter inline 6. And that goes back to how good the 256 is. It's a really great motor. I'm really heartbroken about the M139 going out the door. You guys know I love that motor. I don't think that motor was the right application in the C63, admittedly. I think it's a great application in the GLC 63. It does a fantastic job. I think going above the size of that vehicle is maybe not the best choice with that motor. I love that motor. I love the personality of that motor, how it feels. I love it in a CLA 45. I think in the CLA 45S, it's phenomenal. I'm really sad that motor is being, killed off. And it has nothing to do with, a lot of people have this misconception that it's being killed off because AMG fans protested the 4-cylinder and were upset about this. It's not the real reason. The real reason is it's too loud.
Mm-hmm.
So once again, governments, EU, shut it down. And in order for AMG to make that motor quiet enough, they have to spend a bunch of money in R&D, and it just doesn't make sense. And when you have a champ like the 256, that inline 6, why would you go and invest everything into this 4-cylinder that they've got there? But I mean, what a flex from AMG. 2 liters, and it's putting out that kind of power. I mean, in the C63, which was always my hope, I thought that this final edition might show up with this even higher output. Not like it needs it, but just to say that they can.
Mm-hmm.
But in the C63 and the GLC 63 on its own, that motor makes 470 horsepower.
It's crazy.
It's unheard of. Like people, what they don't realize is the base engine in the 204 C63, that 6.2 liter, made 451 before you got the performance package. So you're almost 20 horsepower more from a 4-banger, a 2 liter. Like it's crazy. And I mean, you've done a turbo replacement on one of those.
Yes.
How big's that turbo?
It's massive. Yeah. It's like, it's huge. And you can see it under the hood. You can just lift the hood and see it. It's massive. It takes up the whole passenger side under the hood. But yeah, if that motor goes away in the future, there's still going to be a CLA AMG. I've heard it might be all electric.
Electrified.
It's going to be electric. There's going to be no M139.
All electric.
Yeah.
You never know. They might bring something back. They might have to.
I don't think that market is going to create the demand for it. I think that's going to be filled through C63 and C53, essentially, if they put that 6-cylinder in, because they're going to have to replace the C43's motor and the GLC 43's motor.
Now, what if they take that 6-cylinder and just take 2 cylinders off?
You're the tech.
Right? If you made that a 4-cylinder, that'd be an epic motor.
Okay, but you're the technician, going back to what Justin's saying. How are they making that much power out of the 2 liter then? Because you can't just lop off 2 cylinders on that inline
boost.
6.
It's all boost. That motor creates, I forget what it is, and it's like
36 pounds of boost.
36 pounds of boost with warranty on that car. That's wild, right? Right? And it's not like we see overboosting problems or stuff like that. But if you took that 6-cylinder, and let's say we take off 2 cylinders, you make it more compact, you can turn it so it can fit in a front-wheel drive configuration, I think that would be the motor for CLA 45.
How much, full transparency, what is the failure rate that you've seen of the M139 though, with that crazy boost?
Failure?
Yeah.
No failures.
Little.
Yeah, nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember when that motor was coming and you see, we're putting warranty on a car that has over 30 pounds of boost. Like we all had cars when we were younger and it had like 15 pounds of boost. That was normal. And you'd go and you'd tinker with the turbos and a hose is going to blow or, pistons are going to go through the side. But 30 pounds of boost on a stock motor is wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so the block though is heavily reinforced.
Oh yeah. 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 Block, everything. Pistons. It's all made for that much boost.
Yeah. It's all forged components, right? I mean, it's a technological marvel. Like I don't think it gets enough credit. And that's why I love that motor is I think it's so good from a 2 liter. It's just mind blowing that a 2 liter can put out that much power. No one's come close to that ever out of a 2 liter.
And it's always made it to a really good transmission.
Yeah.
And 4MATIC, which also adds to it. You can have the best motor in the world, but if you don't have a good transmission, it's going to be garbage, right?
Well, that was what we saw.
That's what we saw in the video, yeah.
And everyone thought it was because he didn't know how to drive.
It's not that.
I still think that motor can exist in the NGCCs. I mean, GLA, GLB, CLA, obviously they have their own electric versions, the EQBs, the electric GLB, albeit different. But we've talked about it in the past. I mean, one of the biggest failures of Mercedes-Benz and the EQs is the fact that they're so different. They're so wild. You're trying to take the same buyer and make them buy something that is totally foreign to them, going to electric, and then it looks totally different. The EQB, albeit priced probably too high, at least it looks like a GLB. And with the new CLA coming out, designed to look identical, whether it be electric or gas, because of that, we might be able to still see the M139 in those smaller vehicles if they keep them in the market.
From what I have read, and I'd love to have something in the comments, try to confirm this. maybe somebody chimes in from a Falterbach and confirms this. From what I've read, the changes required in order to make that motor compliant with EU standards and noise regulations are far too costly. And they're just not going to go down that road and open that can of worms again. So I think we are witnessing the end of the M139 right now. And I don't see it coming back. I mean, think about how crazy that is, that they overcome all of these feats, which, once again, don't want to come off as being this anti-government podcast, but all these feats and all these things that are put upon them by these governments and the EU and all this, the ridiculous guidelines that they have to achieve these different type of thresholds, and they achieve it. Like, they actually pulled it off. They gave you V8 power out of a 4-cylinder. They gave you fuel economy that was better than a 4-cylinder and still gave you V8 power. And after all that's said and done, because they were looking to maintain some form of emotion in this 4-cylinder, that was the major struggle with the C63 and the GLC 63, they get shut down for that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how crushing would that be for those engineers? Like, I mean, you just throw your hands up at some point and you're like, these guys are never going to be happy unless we're producing nothing but a bunch of electric cars that you just plug in all day and make a bunch of fake sounds through the cabin and make no sound on the outside. We're going to make these vehicles like ghosts on the road.
Yeah, I'm hoping we see it again in the next CLA 45. Fingers crossed.
I mean, how cool would it be if they added the ISG to that motor overall, and they added the E-turbo assistance that they had in the C63 to a CLA 45S?
That'd be epic.
I mean, from what I've read, that motor is easily capable of over 500 horsepower. But of course, because it's got warranty, they do hold it back to some degree. But I think that they could probably get it to that amount there.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it in my mind. But going back to the 256, I think that's going to be the breadwinner and the champ for AMG. I think a lot of people don't realize that a G550 is essentially a 53 motor.
Mm-hmm.
And you've seen what it's done in a lot heavier vehicles, and then you put it in something that's much lighter, like a CLE 53. CLE 53 is fast.
Very fast.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize how fast that car is. And there's a lot of people in disbelief or don't believe that this vehicle is going to run with an M4, for example. M4 base is a 2-wheel drive, and it's no different than the M2. I mean, the CLE 53 is going to walk on it just purely from a traction perspective. But a CLE 53 is not a lot slower than an M4 xDrive competition, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, and there isn't a big gap in horsepower either. You're talking, 503 horsepower or something on the M4.
Mm-hmm.
And a CLE 53 is, with the overboost is closer to 450. It's not a big difference between the two. The price is a huge difference between the two. So I think that's what's the real secret sauce behind the 256 and why it's going to continue to be so successful is it's also a motor that's much less expensive for AMG to produce. It's not hand built.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a mass produced motor. So that helps quite a bit.
And the race star will work every time in the Benz.
Yeah. That's another podcast we need to talk about. We need to talk about the challenges we've had with different brands.
BMWs.
Yes, we've had a lot of challenges with their launch control, but that's not what the topic of this podcast is. But we will ask the viewers to leave some comments and see how much they want to know about that stuff. Mm-hmm. We're not sitting here trying to promote AMG over BMW because I personally think the best launch control is PDK in the Porsche.
Mm-hmm.
It's never failed. You can beat that up all day long, but that's not the topic we're on today. We need to move on to something much more important, which is the return of the V8. We are getting back to the V8.
Well, I mean, people have been begging for it. You namely and especially, won't stop telling me about it. I mean, obviously, had a huge run with it, E63, SL63, C63, every one of our vehicles. And then because of technology, they lowered from the V8s to the 6s to the 4s. But yeah, I mean, V8, AMG, they've been synonymous together, and it's coming back.
We don't know much about it. We know it's supposed to be a flat plane V8. Besides that, we don't really know a lot.
Yeah, I don't want this to come off as me as trying to rob the glory from AMG that, when the CEO announced that there's a new V8 under development right now. Like, it's this ground up thing. It's not really a ground up thing. Let's be honest for what it is. It's essentially the basis of what was in the Black Series GT, which is a flat plane 4-liter bi-turbo V8, right? And the big thing that's the game changer, what's really different is the addition of 48-volt and ISG.
Yeah, is there going to be anything else though, right? Will there be electric turbos? Will they put in an electric supercharger, right? What else will they put on this flat plane V8 to take it to the next level?
The numbers, though, that they're publishing are very conservative. Like, that not that AMG is publishing, but what the automotive journalists are stating, like it could have 585 to 605 horsepower. I'm sitting there like, well, no, it's had 603 and 612.
778.
and it's 720 in the Black Series GT, which maybe it won't be that crazy because for longevity purposes, maybe they're going to have it tuned down just a bit. But, going back to that about the electric turbos and everything you're talking about, an electric supercharger that's in place, I don't think AMG does a good enough job of taking the credit where their credit is due. And, Porsche comes out with electric turbos in their GTS, right? And it's all the rave. Oh, they put these e-turbos and it's got this hybrid technology that recharges in an instant with this tiny battery that saves weight. I'm pretty sure that was our e-performance for the longest period of time. I'm pretty sure that the C63 that everyone blasted was the pioneer of that entire setup, right? They had an e-turbo that pre-spooled that massive turbo that was the size of your head, bigger actually,
a lot bigger.
Yeah, and it needed that impeller shaft to pre-spool it because you can't fill that turbo with enough pressure, so you need electric assistance. Porsche does it, and everyone's raving about it. But when AMG does it, it's you bring back the V8. How dare you do this four-cylinder? They don't do a good enough job of taking credit where credit is due. And they were the pioneers with a lot of that stuff. And I feel like that's something that is inherent with Mercedes-Benz in general. I mean, who made the first airbags in a production car? Who certified the first seat belts? ABS. Also had traction control. Later on, stability control. It's all AMG. It's all Mercedes-Benz. And then now from the performance perspective, it's all AMG. And they don't do a good enough job of taking credit for that.
Well, I mean, one of the things we talked about is just it's so hard for Mercedes-Benz to market their product because they have so many models with so many different platforms within the models, or not platforms, but variants, engine variants and such. And then you bring AMG into it. When you think of Porsche, or I guess a lot of people would think of it, they know the models, but they don't have different divisions within their branding, and they don't have a commercial line. There's no Porsche Sprinter. There's no Porsche Smart Car, which we've dealt with for quite a period of time in Canada.
Semi trucks.
Yeah, there's no fleet division, so it's marketing plays a big role in that. And there's so many different. I mean, you're using M256 and M139, but there's many situations where you have a C-Class that has totally different setups with their motors. And I'm going back to when I was on the sales floor, and you had rear-wheel drive C-Classes, some with compressors, some V6s. Then year over year, you go from the same nomenclature, and it's now a V6 instead of an inline 4 because it has a 4MATIC system. And now it's actually worse on fuel efficiency because there's just so many different moving parts, and it always comes down to the marketing of it. How does Mercedes-Benz get their technology in front of people when you have so many different options, you got so many different variants, and Porsche doesn't have that same, I guess, issues because they have way less models to choose from with, arguably maybe the same or less variants, but they have they stay in their lane and the people sell their product for them because it's the fan base that you're always battling on our channels. That's their advantage that they have. That's why they get the credit that they do.
Yeah. I think if the marketing team was as good as the engineering team at AMG, they'd be epic.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the number one thing that needs re-engineering is their marketing team. I don't think that they've done a good job on marketing their product by putting it out front and showcasing the fact that they are the pioneers in a lot of those things. I think that they also have missed the mark from a marketing perspective, even just from how they've used certain nomenclatures. And, the C63, we talked about that. That was an engineering marvel and a marketing failure. I've said that since day one. It shouldn't have been a C63 to begin with. It shouldn't have been called an e-performance. This whole e-performance thing is way too long of a name.
It's confusing.
It's very confusing. Yeah. I mean, you could have just went with simplified numbers. Why didn't they just call it a 65 or a 66 or a 70? Like, give us something simple so that you have something to associate that, okay, this is a higher number, it's more power. You don't have to do this alphabet soup. And it's almost as if, I feel like Porsche and AMG, Mercedes-Benz, seeing how, they share a city there in Stuttgart, I feel like they kind of like bounce off of each other and they make similar missteps. I mean, Porsche is right now definitely making a lot of missteps with what happened with their Macan and raising the price of their 911 while tandemly raising the production. Kind of similar to what happened with our G-Wagon, kind of similar to what happened with our EQ line. And they just kind of mirrored it and they went down the same path. But you look at the back of a Porsche, a 911, I mean, some of them are just at alphabet soup, like 911, GTS, 4, Carrera. Like there is like this absolute novel across the back of this thing under this massive whale tail. And you look at now with AMG, you've got an AMG GT63 SE Performance 4MATIC 4-door.
Plus. 4MATIC Plus.
Oh yeah, we missed the plus. Yeah, exactly. Like you didn't have enough things there to begin with. You had to add the plus in there too. So, I mean, it's just, there's so many things that they could do better from a marketing perspective. And I feel like that's where the market's missed a few times in terms of why they don't get the credit where the credit is due for certain engineering marvels that they pulled off, and why guys show up on the scene, or like Ferrari, for example, which, I wanted to talk today about, like a car like the Ferrari 296 uses a very similar F1 hybrid technology. I drove that car and was floored. I personally think it's probably the best Ferrari right now that you can get from all the new Ferraris that I've driven on the market. I think it's absolutely incredible. But once again, got blasted the exact same way the C63 did. Didn't get off the ground because it's a hybrid. It's a V6. It's not a V8, whatever it is. Who cares?
Mm-hmm.
Who cares? It's exhilarating to drive. It's fantastic in terms of how it handles, how it sounds. It doesn't matter that it's a V6. It sounds fantastic. And it's unbelievably fast. Like one of the most engaging cars. But people rave about this hybrid technology and all this stuff they have, these in-wheel motors and stuff in the SF90. And yet we have technology like that in AMG for way less money.
For a moment there, it sounded like you were actually starting to reappreciate the EQS AMG that you drive. It's fast. It sounds good interior. It's fake.
No.
Yeah, you do. It's fast. It's a land yacht. I mean, everything you started going down Ferrari, I was sitting there going, maybe he does love his car.
No.
Maybe he does love that EQS.
Look, at the end of the day, Ferrari is trying to bring back manual transmissions to offset the fact of how much they upset their clients by introducing an electric in the first place. I don't think they were wrong by going down the path of an electric. And I don't think AMG was wrong by going down the path of an electric, and neither was Mercedes-Benz. I think it's progressive and it's where the market is going. And I've said it multiple times before. My kids will not my eldest daughter is crazy about gas vehicles and manuals. But beyond that, even my son at the age of 5, who's an absolute car nut, is crazy about the GTXX when he saw that on TV. And it's all electric. The next generation is not going to care. So at the end of the day,
they won't know the difference. They won't be able to appreciate what we had.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because they won't know the difference. That's just what they know.
It's true. And, it doesn't matter. Like, it was progressive of them to have to do that. And same with Ferrari. Like, they have to produce an electric at some point because that's really where the market's going to go. And people keep blasting these brands saying, you sold out, you did that. Well, no, they didn't. Mm-hmm. These are government regulations. These are things that they have to comply with, or else they will cease to exist. So, my general opinion is that if AMG does a better job of marketing and pushing its heritage and what its grassroots are from, and the fact that they were the pioneers in a lot of these different performance products, and despite the fact that people blast them a lot of times saying, well, no, that's too expensive. Oh, I can't believe a GT63 SE performance four-door is $250,000 Canadian, right? Well, it's still way less money. It's not $750,000 like it is in a Ferrari. It's not $500,000 like it might be in a Porsche. It's still a lot less money than what it is and what the competitors are. But because if you don't serve it to the marketplace, and we know this from sales, if you don't serve it to the marketplace to say, this is all the value you're getting, and this is why my car costs this much, and it's still way less than that guy's, you're not doing that. You're not instilling any value in the marketplace, and people aren't going to, race to your showroom to buy that product. And that's where they miss the mark. And
do you feel that if they early and often, when they release something and they explain the why, that'll actually create demand and then furthermore create scarcity in the outgoing vehicles? Because oftentimes we're sitting there in the showrooms trying to answer the why they did this, why the M139 might be disappearing, why they're going the directions they do. And oftentimes there's really no literature as to the why. And obviously we're smart car minds, so we start thinking it through. But I mean, if they start sharing the why and they do it early, that in its own right will probably create a reasoning. And instead of having the haters out there saying, oh, they've lost their mojo, as you said, it's now more of a, this is the why they're doing it. And you know what? Maybe we should jump on the stuff that is leaving because it's still pretty cool. And I mean, I'll never forget when I was on the floor, 2008, and I'm dating myself there, but we had an SL55 AMG. It had the compressor. It was a phenomenal vehicle, $205,000 in 2008. And the 2009 SL63 comes out, 6.2 liter naturally aspirated V8. It was like next level, big game changer, huge V8 under the hood instead of the compressed. And that vehicle was $155,000. The pivot that the dealers had to do, obviously there was a lot going on south of the border. Pricing was changing. Vehicles were being imported, not exported. Very different time. But to be able to have to explain to a customer why the SL55 still had a purpose when, albeit $30,000 to $40,000 more, and then you go to the SL63, which is already a year newer, totally different look, sounds angrier.
It has a bigger number.
Yeah, AMG and 63, again, it's synonymous.
Yeah.
There was no why. And it was just a pivot and everybody panicked and we had to do massive price changes and we had to stomach big losses. But there was no why. It was just this is the direction we're going. And I mean, now you and I appraise an SL55. I'd love to be able to steal one. And they seem to keep going up now. But I would love to be able to get into one of those. But there's never the proper, this is why we've done it. This is where we're going. It's just kind of, here you go.
I think you nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. And that was a part of their failure of the EVs. They did the same thing. They just threw it out there. Here you go. This is what it is. It's an EV. And here you go, sell it. Mm-hmm. It's got a Mercedes-Benz star on it, sell it. I mean, a lot of these brands, and including AMG, including Mercedes-Benz, including Porsche, Ferrari, they get by on a lot of their fan base. The fandom really does carry them forward. Like, people love what they do so much that they will forgive them for multiple things. And there's one thing that we have to accept, the fact is no brand is perfect. No person is perfect. They all make mistakes. And the key is learning from those mistakes and, progressing forward. What is a perpetual mistake that they keep making, particularly right now with AMG and with Mercedes-Benz, is they're almost too humble. Like, they just don't take enough credit where their credit is due. I mean, think about the 204 C63. That was a game changer. I mean, it was a wrecking ball, literally, that came right through the marketplace. In what world would you take something that was the equivalency in size to an A4 and a 3 Series BMW, and you shoehorn a 6.2 liter V8 in it? I mean, that's why people love AMG. They're like, these guys are absolutely ludicrous, and they do it. And they carried that trend forward, and they made these hot Vs and these bi-turbo V8s, and they're constantly pushing the envelope to the point that they come out with a 671 horsepower C63, but it's a 4-cylinder hybrid. And, Porsche comes out with a hybrid version of their 911, this iconic vehicle. And everyone's raving about this new technology and how good it is.
Well, you touched on something seconds ago about fans. I mean, that's something that you and I were truly inspired by almost 10 years ago now. It was a while ago, but Mercedes-Benz really put a focus on creating a fan base. I mean, you look at, God love the Toronto Maple Leafs fans. I mean, they haven't seen a Stanley Cup in the majority of their lives, but they'll run through a wall for that team just to be able to say that they're fans. And that's what they were trying to do. And that's what Porsche and Ferrari have always, they've had that vision. They've created a fan base. And even when they're wrong, their fans will pick them up and support them for it. When you no longer have the fan base mentality where you just want to be, I guess, the cool or you're told what to do because of various external factors, you can lose your fan base quick, especially if they're not loyal. And that goes back to a fan base.
Mm-hmm. We see that right now with Porsche.
Yeah.
Porsche, like literally, I don't even know how they got to be to where they are from right now. But it's like the biggest missteps I think that happened through COVID, which a lot of manufacturers made mistakes through COVID. But in our world, in the AMG or Mercedes-Benz world, they increased production of the G-Wagon while in tandem increasing pricing. I mean, you're the economics major. I'm not. You don't need to major in economics to know that that was a bad move.
I mean, you and I know that that was a knee-jerk reaction. And
Yeah.
it wasn't just the issue of now here's your G-Wagons. It was there were none. We were told there was going to be none. Those that had deposits waiting for them had left the marketplace and respectfully went and got a Rover, or they went and got something equivalent in their minds to a G-Wagon. And then again, global external factors come into play and they say, well, here you go. Here's a large amount of 2019 or 2020?
No. 2019, it was still, that was 20, the big, where it peaked was 23.
That's right. And we were told that there weren't going to be any. And then all of a sudden we had more than we would normally get allocated in a year, and we had to correct it.
Yeah.
And we saw prices adjust.
But at that same time, you had the EQs in tandem that were being launched in this whole new direction, and these $200,000 electric vehicles that nobody asked for, nobody wanted, and ended up getting sold eventually after being heavily discounted to where the market would accept them. And then Porsche, I don't know why, watches this whole thing go down from across the street in Stuttgart. Like, that's a good idea. And they raise production of 911s, raise MSRP. I mean, a base 911, guys, is over $200,000 right now. A base two-wheel drive 911 is over $200,000.
Wow.
And they increase production at the same time. And pricing. Okay, it sounded like a G-Wagon scenario all over again. And then they commit absolute suicide. They take their number one selling vehicle, their Macan, and they say, we're going to make this purely EV and no gas variant. And our customers are so loyal, they're going to overpay for these 911s while plugging in their Macans that they can no longer fill up with gas. And we're just going to force this upon them because we're just that good. It was almost arrogant. And look at what happened. And, they're learning from that. But what I don't understand is how could they have watched what we did, which I think Mercedes-Benz pivoted pretty quickly and they came back. How could they watch what happened with Mercedes-Benz across the street and do the exact same thing to so much worse of a degree? I'll never understand those things. But, that's a whole nother topic overall. And that's something we can talk about at length. And like you said, it's about fandom. It's about the fans. And that's what we're always pushing. And that's the whole reason why we're here today with this podcast. That's why we do drag racing. I think we're arguably of the biggest fans of Mercedes-Benz and AMG. We work with this brand because we're very passionate about what they've done over the years. And we love everything that they do. And when you're a fan, you're hurt from when you watch them make mistakes. And you're going to call them out on it in hopes that they're going to pivot. And I feel like right now, going back to where this whole podcast started from today, is AMG getting its mojo back? I think it's coming in full stripes right now. And I think that they're doing a fantastic approach by going independently after EVs, BEVs, and ICE. And I think that the middle ground is their e-performance line, which I think is absolutely a brilliant design. I just really wish that they would get more credit for it and not send it to the guys across the street in Stuttgart or even as far over to Italy. We hope you enjoyed what you guys saw today. We'd love to hear your guys' feedback. What else do you guys want us to discuss in the future? Let us know what your opinions are. Is AMG coming back full on with its full mojo? Did it ever lose its mojo? Did it have maybe a bit of a misdirection? Where do you want to see AMG go next? Where do you want to see us go next with this podcast? Stay tuned. NBD2YYC out.